Hi everybody, this is Cheryl Richardson, and I'm here for our weekly Facebook Live coaching session. So I look forward to supporting you. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a coach. I've been a coach for a long time, about 25 years, and I've written 6 books. The first book was called Take Time for Your Life. That's probably that and Life Makeovers are the most popular books, and they're based on my work as a coach and helping people to improve their quality of life. And I've been a huge community builder for a long time. I love that I'm able to come here to you on Facebook, and I've been doing weekly newsletters now for, boy, almost 20 years. 20 years I've been doing blogs, writing blogs, although I've called them newsletters for a long time. Hi, Teresa. And hi, Diana and Cindy. So I come to you every week offering my support through coaching, resources, ideas. Hi, Shelley, my sister. Hey, Shell. And Carmen and Sibele. Welcome. Glad you're here. So I thought I'd come on a couple of minutes early so I can welcome people. And Dorada, nice to see you. And Jessica, hello there. Thought I would come here to welcome some of you early, and then we'll do some coaching. This will be your chance to. Just put a question in the comment section. Be brief, and specific. That's how I'll be able to help you the most. Hey Donna, hi. Thank you. I'm glad you liked. I wrote a blog this week about going to church. It was actually a blog from a couple of years ago about going back to church on Easter and just what a special experience it was. And a lot of people wrote to me this week saying that they went back to church too. A friend of mine had invited me to go to a Catholic Mass. I grew up Catholic. And so we went together on Easter. It was just it reminded me so much of when I was a little girl, being in church, dressed up, sometimes hands in gloves early when I was very little. And it was a special experience. And what I said in the blog was that at the end of the Mass, when we were walking out of church, my friend introduced me to the priest because it was her church. And, as a young girl, I was involved, I'd go to church, of course, and, it was always a very proper affair. And when my friend Jacqueline introduced me to the priest, he came right over and gave me this big hug. He didn't even know who I was. And he was holding me, saying this prayer over my head. Now, I don't know if this is a common practice, but he said this beautiful prayer, he said something like, Lord God, give this woman all she needs to be healthy and happy and to do her good work in the world. And it was just this spontaneous prayer that was so beautiful. And I just held on while he was hugging me. And then all of a sudden he finished and he sort of pulled back and he looked at me and I just looked him right in the eyes and he said to me, do you get it? And I went, yeah, I get it. I felt blessed and welcomed and infused with the Spirit. It was great. It was really a special experience. So I wrote a blog about that this week, and you can read it at CherylRichardson.com. You'll find it right on the homepage, a link to it on the homepage. So, and I do that. Every week I write a blog, usually about some story about something that's happened in my life, and what I'm learning from it. This week's blog's going to be a doozy. I don't think it's going to be a doozy, but I won't say anything about it. I'll wait and let you be surprised. So if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, go to CherylRichardson.com or just look right up at the sign-up page on Facebook, and you can sign up right there, and you'll get the blog every single week, and you'll also get notifications of when I'm coming to your area, if I'm doing a workshop. And certainly these Facebook Lives as well. That's where I put the notification in. All right, so we have a ton of people here. Lots of people with comments. So let me just run through real quick. Say hello to Jen in San Diego, and Terry and Karen Stone. Hey, Karen. And Charla, Raylene. Beautiful names. Julia from Istanbul. Hey, Deb. And Nicole from Ontario, Canada. One of my favorite places. Sandy, thank you so much. I I appreciate you being here. And Jacqueline, hello. Nick, where are you from, Nick? Let's see, Nick Fun Singh. Oh no, your live stream isn't working. That's not good. Kaduz from Algeria, welcome. It's so wonderful that we could all be together from all different parts of the world, isn't it? Victoria in Brazil. Hi, Victoria. And yeah, there you go. Brenton. Hi, Brenton. Brenton's a member of another group that I belong to, which is just, it's wonderful to see you here. Thank you for being here. All right. And Jessica, Corey, and Christine Hansen. Hi, Christine. Welcome. And Allison and Jessica and Mariana. Iwelina from Poland. Hi. I know I'm probably not saying these names properly, but please forgive me. But thank you for being here. And Julie from Maine, kind of next door. Michelle from Texas. Anyway, lots of people. So, all right, let's start with the coaching. I have a little clipboard here with a pen because sometimes I'll mention resources and then I try to include them here in the Facebook post afterwards because I know a lot of you will ask me for them. So I try to get them in there after when I'll edit the post. So let me see, what else do we need to know? So yeah, you can go ahead and post a question. I see that some of you have already done that, so I'll scroll back, don't worry. If you posted a question very early on, feel free to do it again. Just copy and paste into the comment section. And we'll have fun together. And I'm going to do my best, as I often do, to make individual situations apply to everybody in some way, shape, or form so that we all benefit from the specific questions that you ask. So, okay. Yeah, Jen, sorry, I was just in Vegas last week. But you know what? I think Hey Host is going to be doing another event in Vegas next year, so stay tuned. So let's go with Charla. How do you deal with the pet's death? Oh, Charla, I'm so sorry. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add you to, right here I have, this is my little prayer book. And I have this little prayer in the front. It says, "Dear God, please watch over the people named in this book. Let them feel your love and presence. Give them hope and keep them close." And so I always put people's names in here. And Charla, I'm going to put your name in here. And if you want to comment and tell me your pet's name, I'll include your pet's name as well. I think this is a magical book. And I know that the big love, divine love, pays attention when we say prayers for one another, when we support one another in that way. So, Charla, how do you deal with the pet's death? You know, I haven't experienced that in a long time. I certainly did experience the death of my dad a few months ago. And I think of my cat Poupon that a lot of you have seen pictures of and heard me speak of as a member of our family as well. And I think there's a few things I would say. First of all, extreme self-care is the order of the day. It's okay for you to cancel commitments, to take the space you need. It's even okay to take, a mental health day or two off from work if you're able to do that. To let friends know what you need, even if it means permission to change your mind at the last minute, so that if you're grieving and you feel like you just need to be by yourself or you need to be in a safe place where you can cry, whatever you need to take good care of yourself is first most important. It's just painful losing someone we love, and it's painful losing a pet. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I worry about, I often think, my God, what would I do if anything ever happened to my little cat, Poupon? But, very good friends of ours, my closest friends, Bob and Melissa, just lost their dog a couple of weeks ago. And there is a grieving process. It's really hard in the beginning. It gets better over time. I've watched them, in a week or two, they've felt a bit better. And then they sort of, go back into the sadness. I think about my dad. I have a picture of my dad right behind my kitchen sink because I'm there a lot. And sometimes I just look at that picture and I just start crying. And I know I need to cry. It's like crying is a way to release some of the pain and release some of the sadness. And if I allow myself to do that, and I allow the grief to come and move through me, then I know that I'll feel better pretty quickly until the next wave. And grief comes in waves, and the good news is that over time, the waves get sort of further and further out, and they wash away the pain, and what they leave behind are the beautiful memories that you shared with your loved ones. So you might want to keep a picture around with a candle, and certainly, Charla, make sure that you ask your pet to give you clear signs that he or she is with you. I believe in that wholeheartedly. My friend Bob and Melissa's dog name was Libby, is Libby, and Libby was giving us signs. No sooner was she out of her physical body and out of a lot of pain than she was giving us signs. So I think that, Brian Weiss, who's a dear friend of mine and who is the psychiatrist who's the expert on past life regressions, says that, the souls of our animals, just like us, live on beyond the physical body. And that little animal is with you and will be with you and will offer you comfort. It may come sooner rather than later. It may come later, but just really be good to yourself, Charla, and invite people, be very clear with people about what you need in order to feel well taken care of. And I have you in my book, and I send you lots of love, and I'm so sorry for your loss. It's, animals are woven into the fabric of our lives, and they spend some of the most intimate time with us, so it takes a while to get used to them no longer being in our presence. So you'll be okay. I promise you'll get through this. It's just going to be hard for a while. And grief, if you welcome it in, opens your heart, and it just allows you to have more love, to experience more love. So I wish you all the best with that. I really do. All right, let's see. What else do we have here for questions? How to deal with my partner's depression. He's seeking help, but it's hard. Yeah, Annette, it's hard. When I wrote The Art of Extreme Self-Care, I was in the middle of writing that. I started writing that when my husband Michael went into a very serious depression. He had surgery and had a reaction to some medication, and it threw him into a depression, and then it stayed. And Annette, it stayed for a long time. And it was very, very difficult. I will say this, finding really good doctors who are artists when it comes to dealing with depression and medication, I think is good. Doctors who don't just spend 15 minutes with the patient, but have a history, experience of working with people who are depressed and working with medication in skillful and artistic ways, if that's needed. And it often is, and is what the patient or the person needs in order to get on steady ground. And then certainly finding a really great therapist. I'm glad that he's getting help, Annette. I'm very grateful that my husband Michael, one of his doctors had said to me during that time to help him find a really great therapist who was skilled at dealing with depression. And I made phone calls. You can just imagine what that was like, right? I remember the first therapist I spoke to was a man who said to me, sweetheart, your husband really has to call. You can't get him into therapy. And I thought, oh my God, I know that. I tried to explain to him what was going on, but he didn't get it. And when I did call this woman, her name was Rita, and explained to her what was going on, and she said to me, wow, that's really smart that someone told you to look around for some support for your husband. And I just remember saying to her, Annette, can you tell me a little bit about your philosophy in working with clients? And I wished I had tape recorded what she said, because I thought, this is what everybody needs to hear from a therapist, a really good therapist. She said something like, I'm like a shepherd with a lantern, and I go into the dark forest with my patients, and I try my best to lead them, to shine a light on the darkness ahead of them so that they can see the places that they need to look at and deal with in order to make it through. Something beautiful. Like, she was way more poetic than I was, but it was really, and I remember I set up the appointment and Michael went to see her, and I just crossed my fingers that he would like her, because Michael, my husband's a really smart guy. He's a therapist himself, and I knew that he needed somebody smart and wise. And when he came home, he said that he really liked her a lot, and that he would go back every single week, and he did. And what we discovered long after Annette was that his depression was really a dark night of the soul. He was embarking on the hero's journey that I've spoken about here before, and that I've written about in my next book. He was embarking on the hero's journey where the things in life that used to work weren't working anymore, and there was a descent that happened, and a period of time in the mystery where you have no idea when you're going to come out, and you don't know what's going to happen. And eventually, if you hang in there and you get the help that, wise spiritual guidance from good, solid therapists, I think, who understand the hero's journey or that dark night of the soul, you emerge, you ascend from the mystery, the unknown, the zone of in-between. You ascend from that place, a different human being, a more evolved spiritual being, a greater version of your higher self. And I will say this, Annette, I wished that I had reached out for help sooner myself. It took me about a year to get into therapy myself with someone who was specifically skilled at dealing with caregivers. So getting your self-help is important. And also recognizing that when we are supporting a partner on a spiritual journey like depression, that we have signed up for a spiritual assignment as well. I needed to learn how to practice good self-care. I had to learn to not be a know-it-all and not be a doctor when I wasn't. I had to learn what I was qualified to support Michael with and what I wasn't. And I needed to be able to set limits and to take time away so that I would be rejuvenated and, get my energy back. So self-care is important to you. It's the most loving thing you can do for your partner. And if you take it on as a spiritual assignment, as hard as it is, just decide that, this is in my life to help me become a better version of me, and I'm going to take it on and really work with it. And I wish I understood that a little bit better earlier on. I wouldn't have suffered as much as I did. And I probably would have been a better partner. But I was a damn good partner. It just could have been better probably. So anyway, I hope that's helpful, Annette. Yes, Brenton, it's lovely to see you here too. How do you deal with people who drain your energy? What if they are family? Leanne? Well, energy is a precious thing. It's really important. And depending on the situation, nobody has a right to steal our energy, so we need to be able to set limits with people. And it doesn't matter whether you share blood or not. Having good boundaries is important, because when you are there for people over and over and over again who are draining your energy. For example, I often tell the story about if you have a friend who's chronically complaining, or a family member for that matter, who's chronically complaining about the same thing and they never do anything about it. When they come to you and they start complaining about the same old thing, what's happening is you're enabling them to dump the anxiety that's within them out into you, so that they're kind of emptied out and able to just put up with more of the same garbage. So we don't do people a great service by allowing them to chronically complain about the same thing. Instead, what we need to say is, I love you, I want to support you, you've been talking about the problem with your job or the problem with your spouse or whatever it might be. I want to do what I can to support you, so let's figure out what resources or what help you need. I'm willing to help you find that. But I can't listen to you complain about it anymore. And then, Leanne, you need to really back up that boundary with action, which means that if they start complaining again, you need to step in and say, hey, remember that conversation we had? I'm going to help you get support, but I can't listen to this anymore. If people are chronically negative or chronically complaining, sometimes you have to cut back the frequency with which you see them or with which you speak with them. And you don't have to be mean about it. You just need to let people know, it might be sometimes that you just don't answer the phone as frequently and you let it go to voicemail, and you pick and choose when you're going to speak to people, when you have the energy and you feel like you can be present for them. It's actually more loving in terms of the relationship for you to do it that way anyways, rather than communicate with people when you're frustrated and you just want to, scream instead of being present for them. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you, Jessica. I'm glad you liked the blog. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Christine. Yeah, I talk about setting boundaries with grace and love, which means whenever we set boundaries with people, we want to try and do it in what we call a charge-neutral way in coaching, which means there's no edge, like, you know what, it's not okay that you keep complaining. That's edgy. Rather than, you know what, I really love you and I can tell you're really struggling here. And so let me help you find support, because complaining about it isn't going to do you any good. It's not going to do us any good either. You see? No, there's no energy there. It's really coming more from a loving place. That's what I mean when I say setting boundaries with grace and love. Yes, Charlotte, I answered you. You see, I totally believe in our animals live on without a doubt. Let's see what other questions we have. I have no plans to come to Ontario, but you never know. If you're subscribed to the newsletter, you'll know. Thank you, Paul. I'm glad you enjoyed to take time for your life. Okay. Jen says, how do I overcome resistance? I have a tendency to self-sabotage and procrastinate. How do I jump in and change my script from pause to play? I like that, from pause to play. That's really smart. So Jen, one of the things I always look at first about resistance is what's the message that resistance is trying to give us? Because oftentimes resistance has wisdom in it. So is there a reason why I'm resisting doing my taxes, let's say, which they're all done, but is there a reason I'm resisting doing that? Yeah, because it kind of sucks to do my taxes. Does it have to be done? Yes. Can I get help for it? Sure. Or, you know, if I need to do it, then I need to just buck up and do it, right? Schedule a time and get it done. So it's just important to look at, you know, why do I keep avoiding that email invitation where somebody wants me to come to a meeting and I'm not really sure if I want to go, so I keep procrastinating about it? Well, what's my resistance? Well, in that resistance, the wisdom might be, you know, the truth is it's not an absolute yes. It's something that I'd like to do, and it sounds like it would be great, but some part of me isn't fully on board, which means it's not a complete 100% absolute yes, so maybe I need to say no. Just checking in with your resistance, I think, first and foremost is important. I remember one time Louise Hay and I were teaching a workshop together, and somebody stood up and said, I'm such a procrastinator. And she said to them, and you will continue to be, as long as you label yourself that. So I would start to recognize, Jen, that we all have neural pathways that are well grooved, right? Most of us, 95% of the choices and decisions we make are based on subconscious material that was installed in us from conception through 5 or 6 years old. So there's a lot of behaviors that we adopted early on in our lives to keep us safe, or that were in response to our outer environment, you know, messages that we received where we thought, oh, okay, you know, don't tiptoe into that water because it might be dangerous. So we kind of adopt, you know, in adapting, we adopt this resistance to moving forward, for example. So we have these neural pathways, and one of the things I've done, Jen, to really help myself is recognize that the moment I start saying things like, oh, I'm always sabotaging myself, or I'm always procrastinating, bing, there's an old network playing. And right now, I'm going to interrupt that pattern. I'm going to interrupt that neural network, that well-grooved pattern of thinking. I'm just going to interrupt it in some way. I do this all the time. I might get up and dance. I might breathe like 10 deep breaths very quickly. Moving the body is a great way to interrupt a pattern. I wrote a blog about how a year ago I joined a CrossFit gym, and something so out of my league, Jen, because I had been procrastinating about getting back and working out consistently in the way that I had been just a year before. But I decided I needed to break things up. I needed to snap out of some of those neural pathways. And so I joined the gym, and my mantra became, do the opposite of what you'd normally do. And so I played a little game with myself, Jen, and every time, even now, I do it now. Like if I'm sitting down and I start to think, oh God, I'm really tired and I can't believe I have to do, boom, I get myself up and I say, okay, what's the opposite? The opposite would be to get out right now and go for a walk. Because really what you want to do is like think about it and plan it and look at the weather and check the clouds and see if rain's, all of this stuff. No, just get your butt up, put on shoes, get out and walk. So play a little game. Start playing this game called Do the Opposite of What You Normally Do. This isn't a cerebral exercise. This is about having your body do something different. And you'll find that a couple things are going to happen, Jen. First of all, you'll start to get some energy and some motivation, and you'll begin to create new neural pathways that over time will become grooved in and of themselves. Like now, it's been over a year. I go to CrossFit 3 times a week. It's some of the hardest working out I've ever done. And if I wake up and I think, oh, I don't know if I want to go today. No, get out of bed, get dressed, go. Like I'm creating these new neural pathways and they're already really well grooved now so that I actually look forward to going. It's a part of my regular life. We all have to remember that anything you constantly complain about, any way that you consistently beat yourself up, any conversation in your head that doesn't work for you, that you keep having over and over and over again, what you're doing is you are strengthening those neural pathways in the brain so that the groove's getting deeper and it's going to be harder to get out. Instead, we're living in the past based on old behaviors. We're behaving as if we're who we were a year ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago. In order to break those old neural pathways, that old neural programming in the brain, we need to start doing something different, thinking different, moving different. This is what meditation does. When we learn to get quiet on a consistent basis and practice sitting in silence, observing ourselves, observing our thoughts, as we do that, we begin to create healthier, we begin to slow our brainwave patterns down and we allow ourselves to kind of develop a witnessing perspective. In other words, we start to pay attention to how we think and how we speak to ourselves. And as we do that, we can catch these periods where we start saying, I've got to jump. You start beating yourself up, Jen. I'm sure you do that all the time. Those are well-grooved pathways. And as I'm fond of saying, if a kick in the ass worked, we would all be thin, rich, and happy. It doesn't work. Loving ourselves by doing something different and creating new pathways in the brain is what's going to really help you. It's going to help all of us. So good luck with that. Hi, Andy and Sherry from California and Carrie from Scottsdale. I love Scottsdale. I'll be there at the end of this year for the Speak, Write, and Promote. How do I find my passion after my mom's death in October, Michelle? I'm wondering why you want to find your passion right now. So your mom just died in October. That's not that long ago. I'm just wondering why they're linked. It's one thing to say, how do I find my passion? But when somebody says, how do I find my passion after my mom's death, what I'm concerned about, or what I'd be curious about is it because the grief is difficult and you're looking for some joy or you're looking to feel better in some way? I think those are two separate things. October isn't that long ago. One of my dear friend Eileen lost her mom a year ago February. So she lost her mom before I lost my dad. And she said to me when I lost my dad in November, she said, Cheryl, this will be a year of firsts. And the year of firsts is hard because everything is new without your dad. And this will be a year of firsts for you, Michelle, and everything will be new without your mom. So it requires a certain amount of compassion and love and gentleness, tenderness with oneself, and the space to grieve. And while you're doing that, Michelle, the interesting thing is that as you allow yourself to fully be present to the grief of losing your mom, you will become more connected to the essence of who you really are, and that's connected to passion. When people say to me, how do I find my passion? One of the first things I want to say is passion is a feeling. It's an experience. I'm passionate about nature, as a lot of you know. I'm passionate about flowers. I'm passionate about birds. I'm looking out at my bird feeders that are filled with red-winged blackbirds and grackles right now, and yeah, all the big birds. So the little ones are gone. I'm passionate, so I feel I'm moved by these things. You know, I'm moved by nature. I'm passionate about people and what makes them tick, and I'm passionate about helping people. It's something, you know, I know I came here to the planet to do. So beginning to pay attention. So the thing I want to say, Michelle, is that when we grieve, we move closer to our feelings. And when we're closer to our feelings, we're closer to the things we're passionate about. We're better able to feel and be moved by the things that we feel passionate about. So some of the ways that you can discover what you feel passionate about are things like, you know, what are some of your favorite movies? Like, I would go on to Netflix or Amazon, or even just go to Google and Google Oscar movies, for example. And you can go back and look at historically movies, and as you go through lists of movies, pick out the movies that you really loved. Go through your bookcases. Look at the books that you've read, or the books especially you've read more than once. Notice what you keep around you. Like when I look around my office here, I have beautiful statues of Kuan Yin and Mother Mary and Madonna and angels. You know, I'm passionate about beauty, and so I can look around and I can see. I have pictures of friends. I have pictures of animals. Look at this adorable. Oh my God! Look at this. Will you look at this? Can you all see that? This adorable. I hope the light isn't. There we go. I think you can see it like that. These adorable little lambs. Somebody sent this to me, and I laminated it and keep it right on my desk because it's so sweet. And I have, you know, pictures of, you know, family members and people I love. So, you know, what do you keep around you? What are you drawn to? These are the things that will give you clues as to what you feel passionate about. And those are the things that will also help you heal as you go through this grief process of losing your mom. So let me just make a note, because I'm going to put you and your mom in my prayer book as well, Michelle. Okay, training. Okay, good. There we go. All right, I hope that's helpful, my dear. You'll find your passion. I have no doubt about it. Yesinia, how to be more of an optimist with myself and not please everyone. You know, you can't live a soul-directed life without making people angry, hurting their feelings, and saying no. It's not that we do that intentionally. It's not that I ever want to hurt someone intentionally or make them angry. But I have to honor my own soul, because if I don't, if I'm just taking care of other people, then I'm not engaged in relationships. I'm engaged in arrangements with people that ultimately aren't going to go any place deep and meaningful. So I think that you know, what you want to do is give yourself permission to make your needs a priority, and you can let people know ahead of time that you'll be doing that, so that they don't take it personally, that they know it's not about them, but it's about you really trying to listen to your soul, trying to pay more attention to what you need. All right, Geraldine, I'd really like to get a partner. Any help? Also, work I love. Boy, that's easy. You're asking easy things. And Charla, yes, I see that your pet's name was Bumper. I'm going to put that in my prayer book as well. How to find a partner. If you go back to my YouTube channel, Cheryl Richardson TV, so go to YouTube and you can look it up there. One of my Facebook Lives, I talked about finding a partner, how to find a partner. I talked about how I found my husband, Michael. I wrote about the kind of partner I was looking for. I worked on a list for 2 weeks. I had close friends look at the list and help me tweak it so that it was a really good representation of what I was looking for in a partner. I did a treasure map. I included pictures of the kind of man I was looking for. And I met my husband 2 weeks later. And I met him through a personal ad. I wrote about this story in the Unmistakable Touch of Grace because it was clearly an act of grace in my life. And so yeah, I think what's important first and foremost, Geraldine, is to get very, very clear about what you're looking for in a partner. write it all down, and then once you do, you need to look at that list and you have to ask yourself, do I match this list? How am I like the qualities that I've listed here? Qualities of character, intelligence, integrity, career, financial situations, health, what do they value? And do I value these things? And does my life reflect that I value these things? Let me take a sip of water. Because it's really important, if you want to attract a partner, first of all, to really put some time and energy and thought and inspiration into writing about who you're looking for, because it's the most important decision you'll make. And then really making sure that you are reflective of the kind of partner that you want to meet, because like really does attract like. So you can do the same thing with work. You can profile your ideal job, and then you'll get clear about what it is. You can be sharing that with people because now you've written it down, and then you can be affirming the perfect job finds me, the perfect partner finds me. Keep affirming that and keep your eyes open, and then be willing to do new things. I responded to a personal ad that my husband had placed, and I'd never thought I would do something like that, but I only did it because I said a little prayer to the universe. I said, you know what? I'm responding to this ad as a proclamation that I'm ready to meet a partner, and I'm willing to take action. And he called me the next day, and the rest is history. Well, the rest is written in the Unmistakable Touch of Grace. Okay. So Linda says, I've lost so many loved ones in a very short amount of time. The world doesn't feel safe to me. How do I learn to trust in life again? Grieving is hard work. Oh, Linda, I really understand. I totally get what you mean about the world doesn't feel safe. So my dad died in November. His brother died in February. And then my mother's brother just died this month. Excuse me. I think it was the end of March, beginning of April. And Linda, it felt like, I said to my husband, it feels like the sort of organizational chart of my family, my historical family, like suddenly, like, poof, people were just leaving. And it's brought up so many existential questions about the preciousness of life and how long we have here, and the frailty, the fragility of life, how life as we know it can end at any time. And when you lose a lot of people at once, it's just so unsettling. So, Linda, talking to people that you trust, that are safe, crying a lot, journaling a lot, I think that helps me, just getting my feelings out on paper. I've been a journaler for a long time. I know my husband Michael and I talk about it a lot because we both, we're sort of entering that period in our life, and yet at the same time, you never know whether it's going to be you or not. So it's also, you don't want to suddenly close yourself off from the world, Linda, because the soul wants to experience life. We're here to experience life, to enjoy this beautiful planet that we live on, as challenging as it can be sometime. And so the more we allow ourselves to grieve, the more we move through it. We come out the other side into the light, we enjoy life a bit, then we go back down into the grief, we feel it, we come out again into the light, and we enjoy life. It will get easier, I promise you. It's just that it's really unsettling when you lose a lot of people at once. It just is. And grief support groups might be helpful. Giving yourself the gift of the company of other people. Sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes not so good. Depends on how actively people are working through their grief. But I'm putting you on my prayer list, Linda. You too, sweetheart. You're going there. I understand what you're going through, and I wish you all the best. So let's see. So Azara says, hi, beautiful woman. Thank you. I'm from New Zealand. Hi, I've never been there. I was close, though. I'm needing to earn money and trying to start up a creative business. This makes me feel alive, but yet it has to make money. My husband is pressuring me to get a real job, but I feel that doing my own thing would be best for me, holistically. How do I have faith and strength to know what to do and know it'll all work out fine if I follow my heart? All right, Azara, don't be mad at me. Okay, let me preface this by saying, don't be mad at me, but you should listen to your husband. I'm fond of letting people know that when you're starting a business, you want the growth and the nurturing of that business to be a joyful experience. You want to have fun. You want it to be stress-free. You want it to be exciting and like an adventure. And it can't be that when you need the money. And so getting a job and then starting the business on the side is the way that is the best shot you will give yourself at growing a successful business. So it's not the answer that a lot of people want to hear, but too often I'm back when I had my radio show, people called all the time and they said, I want to do what I love. I don't want to get a real job. It's like, yeah, but you have to pay the bills. And in a partnership, a lot of times, one partner who's been the breadwinner is pressuring because they don't want to carry the weight of the responsibility. And it's not good for the relationship that they carry the weight of the responsibility. So maybe you can find yourself a stress-free job. Like I always joke, if I ever needed to get a job again, I would go wait tables at a restaurant in a heartbeat. I did it as a young woman growing up. I supported myself that way. I love people. I felt entrepreneurial. I felt like I had kind of control over the money I was going to make by taking good care of people. And so, if you could get yourself a job that doesn't feel too stressful, Azera, and then begin the business on the side, this is what I did. It's how I began coaching. I had a job, then I had contract work, then I cut back on the contract work as my practice built, and before you know it, I had it took me 2 years to build a strong referral-generated coaching practice, and then I was able to let the job go completely. But it took 2 years of working in a job because you need a consistent source of income. Otherwise, the energy of desperation comes through to customers and clients, and that's not a good kind of attractive energy that you want to put out there when you're starting a business. So please don't be mad at me, but your husband's on to something, and I want you to succeed with the business, especially if it makes you feel alive. So see the job as a pathway to having a successful business, and hopefully that might help a little bit. Okay, let's see. Just a couple more before we finish up. So let's see. I used to journal a lot, but these days when I sit down to write, I stare at the blank page or screen and it stares back. Do you ever get stuck when you write? And if so, how do you get started again? Thanks for your insight and wisdom. Susie, yes, absolutely. I got you, girl. So my journal, do I have one around here anywhere? Couple of things. Sometimes in my journal, Susie, when I don't know what to do, I'll make a list of things I'm grateful for. One time, I have this small little journal. It's like a little bit smaller than this one. Thought I had it. It was my pleasure journal. Sometimes I would just sit down and I'd think about what are the things that brought me pleasure this week, and I would list those. Other times I have one whole journal and it's only filled with positive affirmations. I would sit down and I would just, life loves me and I love life. Money flows to me effortlessly. Nature heals me. I love trees and trees love me back. Like whatever. I'm making that up spontaneously. But I would just create spontaneous affirmations. And I would allow myself, Susie, to repeat them. So that if all of a sudden I couldn't think of anything to say, then I would just repeat an affirmation I had already written. And sometimes I would put quotes in my journal or pictures, or I would doodle. And I suck at doodling. Can I tell you, I'm not a good doodler. But I would doodle in my journals. Sometimes I would press flowers in my journal, so that we want to go beyond thinking of a journal as just, today I feel blah, blah, or the weather is whatever. Although I write about the weather a lot in my journal, it's kind of the way I get into writing. Like, if I were to start writing right now, I would say, something like the sun is just about to set and it's casting a beautiful yellow light over the birch trees in the backyard. I can see a couple of lone geese down by the roadside, and I would just sort of describe what's going on in my environment and then go from there. Or sometimes you can just do sentence stems. Today I feel blah, or today I'm excited about, or today I'm frustrated by, and that can get you started. Don't feel like you have to journal every day. Just think of it. The other thing I did, Susie, was 1 year, this is years ago, before I ever wrote a book, I had so many letters to God in my journal. Like I would just write letters to God in my journal because I wanted to feel closer to the divine. I was feeling disconnected, and I felt like, okay, if there's anybody out there that's really listening to me, if there really is a God, I'm just going to write you letters. And it was incredibly helpful. So those are some ideas, and I hope they're helpful to you. Yes, Mark, I try to tell the truth. I do my best. Yeah, Bruce, I know. So we worry about our pets. But you know what? I try not to worry. I took a workshop a year ago with Bruce, isn't that funny? Russ Hudson, the guy who wrote The Wisdom of the Enneagram. It's a book I really love, and I'm a huge fan of the Enneagram. I don't have time to get into it now, but if you Google ENNEAGRAM, Enneagram, you can read all about it. It's a personality typing system, but it's really kind of that captures the spiritual essence of people. And I took a workshop with Russ, and we were talking about death and dying. It was related to one of the types, type 5, the Hermit Scholar. And one of the things we talked about, we had to do this exercise where we really had to face straight on the death of our loved ones. And I chose to think about my cat. And we talked about, we broke up into groups of 3, and we just talked about what we were really afraid of. And we were being challenged to face the reality that, yes, we are going to lose people we love. We're going to lose pets we love. And how can we use that knowledge? How can we use the acceptance of that knowledge and the willingness to face that head on as a way to love more deeply? Because it's such a risk to love, right, Bruce? It's such a huge risk knowing that chances are you're going to lose this being before you leave the planet. So every now and then Poupon will be in my lap, and he'll be like cuddling next to me, and I'll look into his little eyes and I'll think, rather than worry about losing you, I'm just going to love you more fully right now, because I am going to lose you at some point, unless you lose me first. At some point, we're going to miss each other. And so I'm going to be really, really present. I did that just today. I was busy. I had different things going on, and Poupon crawled up right on my shoulder. He started licking my shoulder, and he was like rubbing up against my face. And I was like trying to write something while he was on my shoulder. And then I went, wait a minute. How many of these am I going to have? How many moments are we going to have with one another? How many moments are we going to have to be able to look our precious loved ones or pets in the eyes? And I put everything down, and I shut off the computer, and I just sat there holding him and listening to him purr and looking into his little eyes and studying his nose and his little white fang teeth that were sticking out, thinking, I want to memorize all of this. Just like my dad, I can't even talk about it still. It's so close. But I just remember, being with him in the hospital and looking at his hands and thinking, I want to remember these hands. They were important to me. And I was so present for that. And I can tell you now that he's gone, I'm so grateful I did that, because I remember his hands so vividly. And I'm grateful for the presence that I had when I was studying those hands. And that's what we have to remember. It's so easy in life to forget, to get so wrapped up in the busyness and the craziness and the news media and the just the stuff that's going on in the world. It's so crazy to get wrapped up. It's so easy to get wrapped up in all of that and to miss the important stuff, which is the love that we have for one another. The love we have for the planet and the animals and the birds, and the tenderness in our hearts that grief gives us access to. So, this is a good way to end this Facebook Live. I don't mean to do it like just being emotional, but I never apologize for my tears. I guess I just want to say, take time to really appreciate the light on the trees, or the bird at a feeder, or the pet in your lap. or the loved one's hand that you're holding, or that that you're going to go hold when we're done here. Those are the things that really matter in life. And those are the things that help to heal us, to help us to get a grip on life again, Mona. They're the things that help us to feel grounded when we do feel scared about the losses that we've experienced, or when we don't feel safe in the world. These are the things that anchor us to what's important and what really matters. So anyway, I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for joining me again. And I'm off this weekend for the next Self-Care by the Sea retreat. I'm so excited. If you're listening, there's I think 1 or 2 spots left. And you're welcome to join us. You can find information right on Facebook, but also at CherylRichardson.com. Thank you for all the hearts. I see all of them, and I appreciate them so much. I feel your love, and I feel the sweetness of that. Thank you, and the thumbs up. Please make sure that you're subscribed to my weekly newsletter so we can be in touch, and so you know when the next Facebook Live is going to happen. And I love this, all these hearts going by. So it'll be next week. I'll be at the retreat. I'll be done with the retreat on Sunday night. And I don't know yet when I'll be doing Facebook Live, but I'll do it next week. So get your questions ready, and please stay tuned. Make sure that you mark your calendar so you can be here with me. And in the meantime, I'll put everybody in my prayer book that I said I would put in. And I'll try and remember any of the resources I mentioned so I can post them in Facebook. And yeah, I think that's it. All right, everybody. Lots of love to all of you. Take good care and go hug somebody. Okay. Bye.